I'm joined by Kevin Madden, who's a senior advisor to the Romney campaign. Back for your second appearance on DC Bureau. Thanks, Kevin, for doing it. You're surviving the campaign so far.
Barely, but yeah. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Let's talk about the foreign policy turn first. You know, there was violence in Libya, there was violence in Egypt. U.S. consulates were sacked in both places. Governor Romney and the campaign jumped on that fairly quickly and then got criticized for it. If you had it to do over again, would you have jumped in with your view as quickly as you did?
I don't think you can second guess these, and I think the governor felt very strongly that at that time, as the developments had taken place at that point, that he needed to speak out.
The president takes responsibility not just for the words that come from his mouth, but also from the words that come from his ambassadors, from his administration, from his embassies, from his State Department.
I think that was an important thing to do, and you know, I think it's interesting during campaigns. It's just a reminder that that oftentimes campaigns are beholden to events that are out of your control. Mm-hmm. And as an issue now coming to the forefront, it was one that was going to be important for a lot of people to maybe measure some of the differences on how they approach policy, some of the contrast there. And so the governor felt strongly that he should make a
what's the
statement.
contrast you were trying to draw on foreign policy in general this week?
Well, just given the way that things unfolded over there, some of the posture that we took as a part of a response, that it wasn't strong enough, and so the governor felt that it was important for him to make a stronger statement.
And I think the criticism was that you were saying that a statement from the embassy in Cairo wasn't strong enough, and you were attributing that to the White House. Was that a fair connection to make?
I believe so, and look, I won't parse the governor's statement that he made yesterday, but he believes that when you have an embassy speaking like that, it's essentially speaking for the administration, and the administration is required to either back that up. Now, they later disowned it, which I think sent some confusing messages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's step back from the incidents and talk in general. Mm-hmm. This about foreign policy has not been a big feature of this campaign. I sort of got the sense that you guys wanted it to be, and you were a little frustrated, and that maybe was one of the reasons the governor spoke out, that leadership abroad has not been a big feature of this campaign, and it almost felt as if you wanted it to be more of a feature of the campaign.
Well, I think the governor has a long evidentiary trail of stating his case that we need to embrace American exceptionalism, that we need to have the courage to make the case for American policy around the globe. I mean, that's been an important part. If you remember, during the early process of the governor's candidacy and his book, No Apology, it was an important part of why he believes he has a better position than and a better policies for the country, for America abroad, than does President Obama. But I think this is still an election that is this has been an election, I think, that was largely driven by domestic anxieties related to the economy. But voters do go through this full course of consideration as they look towards making a judgment on who the next president might be. And so this is a part of that. I think that's part of that process right now in voters' minds. I think that over the next 54 days, I think there'll be other opportunities to do that, to just offer those sort of differences and clarify for voters the choice that they're going to have in November.
So probably a higher profile now, and maybe a higher profile through the election on foreign policy, you think?
It could be. I mean, I think one of the things that I found very interesting in this campaign, particularly given my work in the 2008 campaign, 2004 campaign, just how quickly things shift. Yeah. Particularly the news cycle. You know, 48 hours before this, we were talking about monetary policy, and we were talking about jobs report that was coming out, yeah. And that was driving the bulk of the political debate in this country. 48 hours later, here we are talking about foreign policy and some of the differences that the two campaigns have there. So I think that's something that I found. I don't think I'm very good at predicting what we're going to be talking about in 48 hours, but I do think that ultimately. The campaign is still being driven a lot by the anxieties that people have related to the economy right now. That's something that is just at kitchen tables across the country right now is really affecting voters' moods.
You know, there are two more jobs reports coming out before the election. One at the beginning of October, one right before the election, the beginning of November. I wonder if you think those move the needle anymore, or have views about the economy been baked into the cake at this point?
Yeah, you know, typically, I think pollsters, and I'm not a pollster, but I know a lot of very good ones, and both Republicans and Democrats will tell you it usually takes about 6 months for people's opinions about the state of the economy to change. It's going to take 6 months of either good news or bad news to change the trajectory of people's opinions. So I think right now that opinions have calcified. that voters do feel that the economy is not going in the right direction, particularly undecided voters. And I think that's where, over the next 53 days, that's our challenge and that's our opportunity, which is that these undecided voters who by large margins believe that the country's going in the wrong direction, they're very tough customers, and we have to really make our case that Governor Romney has a better vision for the country going forward, that he's the better choice for fixing the economy and putting the economy back on track so that we're realizing stronger economic growth.
So there aren't all that many of those undecided voters this year, but you're saying they look more like Romney voters than Obama voters?
Well, I mean, the thing that I find is an incredible opportunity for our campaign is that they've been watching this president's performance on the economy for the last 4 years, and they haven't decided to support him. So that, for us, is an enormous opportunity. And then when you delve into the numbers and you find out how many of those undecided people who self-identify as having not been persuaded one way or the other right now, they're very pessimistic about the direction of the country. So we have to really focus on them and again, make the case for Governor Romney.
We at the Journal have, with our polling partners at NBC and the Marist Institute, 3 new battleground state polls, you have to say it slowly, Florida, Ohio, and Virginia.
Right.
In each case, President Obama's up by a handful of votes, 5 to 7 votes among likely voters. What do you need to do to close those gaps?
Well, they're all crucial states. I think that's, and I think a lot of what we're seeing right now in some of these polls is a little bit of a sugar high after the Democrat convention. But I think those voters, again, this is a contest for the future of the United States economy with those voters, and I think that's the thing that we have to focus on right now. Is we're not seeing the economic growth that we need to under President Obama's policies of higher spending, a policy where he says he wants to raise taxes, and essentially where the government is the engine of greater economic growth. So we have to make the argument that Governor Romney's plan, which is lowering taxes, making sure that we can put more faith in the American entrepreneur and individual so that we can grow the economy and see greater economic growth, that is what's going to give them a more optimistic view of the country starting on November 7th, or putting them in a place where they say they can picture a President Romney on January 20th, 2013, taking the oath of office and implementing really strong reforms that are going to help get the economy moving again. That's our challenge.
What you seem to be saying is that President Obama might have hit a ceiling you haven't yet, and that explains the difference.
That's right, and I think that's something that's made these folks undecided, right? I mean, they're very tough customers. I think both campaigns would agree. But what is it after 4 years that hasn't allowed them to make the case for, where they haven't moved into President Obama's column of support? And why is it the president? For an incumbent president to be below 50 in all of these states is a very perilous territory for an incumbent running for re-election. So again, I think that's where we have to seize as an opportunity going forward.
Let's talk about finally the other big milestones that are still out there, the debates. I don't know what game changers are left out there, but I get the sense from looking at your campaign you think those might be game changers, just simply because the governor is spending a lot of time getting ready for them. Put the debates in the perspective of the next 54 days.
Well, you spend a lot of time in campaigns going from event to event, where you may have 4,000 people, 6,000 people, 8,000 people. And oftentimes those are people that are there just to show their support for you. They've already decided. Very, very rarely do you have a whole lot of people in there that are persuadable. But the debates offer this incredible opportunity for tens of millions of people to sit in their living room, and many of them who haven't made up their mind yet, and compare and contrast these candidates on stage over the big issues. So while conventions have offered an opportunity to deliver a message, these debates, I think, do offer an opportunity to really show strong critique of where we differ with the president, and then offer for the governor a really important audience that he can then persuade about what he wants to do to put the economy back on track, put America going back in the right direction.
And you guys are in pretty good shape financially as you go through this period, but is there a possibility that there are so many political ads out there this year that we're going to hit a point of numbness on the part of voters, and that you can't break through the static?
I think a really good ad can always persuade people who haven't yet made up their mind. One of the things I find, again, interesting is that the Obama campaign has spent they spent over $100 million in all attack ads against against Governor Romney, and they didn't have the effect that they had hoped to. They haven't poisoned the well with voters. I think that it's an important part of what we do, which is getting the resources, gathering the resources we need, and investing them in states. And over time, hoping that we can have an impact on those voters that haven't made up their mind.
It'll be an intense 54 days.
Not that anybody's counting.
Right,
not
exactly.
that anybody's
Something
counting.
like
And look, we got early voting in probably 7 days.
So the election's underway.
It's getting really close where people are starting to make up their mind.
Anyway, thanks for taking time to talk about it. Hope we can do it again before we reach the finish line.
Always a pleasure.